Hello, my name is Anis Mojgani. I am the Poet Laureate for the state of Oregon, the current Poet Laureate. And it is my good fortune and good pleasure to get to share with you a little bit of time today. Last spring, the Parks Department approached me to see if I would be interested in penning a poem for our approaching Centennial. And I jumped at this opportunity, partially because it allowed me the opportunity to get to travel to some of the parks and spaces that the department maintains. So last spring, Chris Havel, the associate director of the department, was gracious enough to take me to some of these places. We went to White River Falls and to the Tom McCall Nature Preserve, which sits lovingly above the gorge, as well as to the Thompson's Flour Mill outside of Corvallis, and Ecola State Park on the coast, all places that I had never been before. So it was very much a treat. But in addition to that, it was also a real gift getting to be in conversation and dialogue with Chris on these trips, getting to talk about what is the relationship between people and parks and ideas and principles of stewardship and what it means to steward the land, and also getting to talk openly about the relationship of the parks to history and how that's always been through the lens of white American colonialism, and what are the ways in which our institutions are taking on their responsibility to include the indigenous populations in those conversations about conservation and stewardship that the indigenous of the Pacific Northwest have been carrying forth with for centuries. So all that was such a blessing to get to participate in. And, over those trips, getting to see the spaces and also the conversations that we had, trying to find the ways in which those ideas that spoke to me and those things that are important to me might find their way into whatever words I put down. So I wanted to offer this up to y'all. Thank y'all for letting me be a part of all this. Over Mosier in a meadow, wild flowering at my summer's start, 1,700 feet above the Columbia River amongst the lupin and yellow balsam root, I saw a crow snatch a squirrel out of a burrow and the white tail of a deer bounding away. Hidden amongst the thin-branched bendings, I was shown where the doe had made their bedding in the softer grass. From Rowena Crest, I watched the Columbia River Highway curve back from where we had come, snaking through the years and years and years of trees, rock, and water, lain down so any and all could come from where they were to be under the canopy of the woods and hear the water fall from peaks to the rivers down below on their way to the ocean. On the beach of Neskowin, the waves and sand give way to Sitka trunks that were of before, as if spirits made scene at low tide. I couldn't get to these ghosts as the high water had come in, but saw in Detroit the stumps of what was sitting down in the low marsh. 10 miles or so east of the lake there, I watch trees outside my window pass, and am reminded of the wildfires of the years before, how across our state the flames ate the land, as history often does, taking what was until gone, and then often, in the only way we seem to know how, going over it. On this drive, I see the forests, with parts of them gone, burnt, parts of them in bloom. My heart does not quite know what to do with itself. Perhaps you too know this feeling. If not, I want for you to walk in trees, held by the earth in the same hand as the land, to know how time becomes something different in this holding, the length of ourself becoming both shorter and longer somehow, the way a branch is both branch and tree, how the tree in the forest is both tree and forest, how me in the forest is forest. Everything a something holds is a part of the something. The lupin and the prairie star, our buds and blossoms, are also meadow, as too the crow and doe and I. Mountain fall, river flow, the mouth of the ocean, all connecting the what was to what will be. Above me, on the road I'm on, which hugs the Santiam River, the water that lives somewhere higher up than here has cracked open its icy coat, unbuttoned by spring, not yet upon us, but on its way. I watch the water tumbling down, bathing the moss of the rocks on the water's way to the river that speaks outside the right side of my car's window. The road under me curves, the river below me bends, the trees above and around, whether gone or still giving, drape this state. To hold them is to also hold ourselves, a blanket for all, woven and darned by many before us, darned and rethreaded by those yet to come. I want for you this blanket. These trees flanking us, threading their way up and down the mountainside, holding us even as we hold them too. Some bare and blackened with soot, others heavy with leaves, or becoming such, decorating the stitch of the land. Their branches, both burnt and green, rise around us on the road we took to get here. Thank y'all very much. Enjoy yourselves.